Hi, my name is Delmarshae Walker. Welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is doing great today. What I want to talk about today is the miseducation of our black males, our young black men. They have been miseducated by history. They have been miseducated by the government. They have been miseducated by churches. And they have been miseducated by the school system. And in some cases, they have been miseducated by people in their immediate circle, in their immediate surroundings, because they're really not teaching them what it is to be a strong black man. They're not really teaching them what it is to be a responsible black man. They're not teaching them how to to grow in life, to the foundation that they need in order to mature into be able to establish a healthy relationship, be responsible for their kids, different things like that. They're not being taught that. And it breaks my heart to know that it's almost like the blind is leading the blind. When the situation happened back in the 80s, when crack cocaine came out and a lot of people got addicted to drugs, a lot of people got killed out there, and then a lot of people end up going to jail and prisons for a long time, behind drugs. Once that happened, the family dynamics just kind of start falling apart. And so there was no men in the household to guide their sons. And so now they're just out there wandering around, because a woman cannot raise a man to be a man. There's some, I don't care how great you are as a mother, and I would never take that away from you. If you're a great mother, if you're a loving mother, if you're raising your son on your own and you're doing the best that you can, I salute you for that. But then at the same time, you don't understand what it is to be a man. And then sometimes there's going to be questions your son is going to have that he may not be feeling comfortable asking you, or he may feel like, well, there's no point in me asking her because she's my mother. If I had a male to go to, I would ask them. And so unfortunately, like I said, they have been let down in so many different areas that they're just out there, any male figure that's showing them attention, they're going to gravitate towards that, even if it's in a negative way. A lot of guys that's out there doing the things they're doing, they don't want to do that. It's like, as women, we got to understand, just like we have feelings, different emotions, different feelings, men are the same way. They may express them differently, but they have depression, they have anxieties, they have insecurities. They get angry, they get mad, they get frustrated. But when they express those things, or even if they cry, sometimes they're looked at as being weak. Oh, you can't handle that? Why you're crying? Oh, you're this, you're that. But we got to understand they're human. First and foremost, they're human. And if you as a woman don't have anyone to guide you, you're just out there trying to figure it out. If a young man don't have anyone to guide him, he's out there just figuring it out. And so you can't go to him expecting certain things that he was never taught. So that's why I think it's important that we really focus on the young men out there. I stand on the principle of the Bible that men are the head of the household. And I stand on the principle of the Bible that as women, if you're marrying, if you decide to get married and you get married, you're supposed to submit to your husband. And a lot of times women, feel like, well, why should I submit? Look at this guy, look how he's acting. They didn't have any guidance. So if we want a strong family dynamics the way it should be, with the man at the head of the house, the women submitting, then men, real men, need to go out there and really champion for these young men out there. I understand the notion of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But if there's no water, where are these young men being led to? If they get thirsty and they do want to take a drink, where are they drinking from? We have to give them something that's for them, that's going to help them, not involving any women. A lot of women want to sit in noses in business that they shouldn't do. And I, as a woman, I feel like I shouldn't even be standing up here saying this. I feel that it should be a man saying this to other men. There should be something that young boys can gravitate to that's going to educate them on what it is to be a man. It's going to educate themselves on how to carry themselves as a man. And it's going to give them something solid, a solid foundation. None of this internet bull. You know, it's a lot of stuff I see on the internet. Oh, if you want to be a high value man, you gotta, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? A farmer could be a high value man. You know why? Because we need to eat. A beekeeper could be a high value man. You know why? Because if there's no bees, they can't pollinate the flowers, the apples, the orange, everything we eat, bees pollinate them. So if there's no beekeeper, we're gonna die, right? If all the bees die, we're gonna die. So you know what I'm saying? High value is keeping me alive. That's what high value is. And so all this BS that's going around on the internet about what a high value man is, no, that's not. And so take away that and really teach these men strong foundation on what it is to be a man, so they can teach their sons, so on and so forth. And like I said, if there's a strong male presence, a woman's going to fall in line because she's going to want that leadership. A lot of times women don't fall in line because of the BS they have to deal with in what is considered to be a man, or how they listen to these gurus or whoever they're supposed to be on the internet, what a high value man look like, what a high value man should, how they should carry themselves, which is not a high value man. They might have male parts, they might have money, but that don't give them value. And that's and this is the only stuff that they got to gravitate to, really. And so I feel like men should come together, real men should come together and give these young boys something to hold on to, a strong foundation that they can build upon and go from there.
How does he who controls the schools control the world? Luke chapter 6 and verse 40. A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone, after he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. This is the New Testament version of Proverbs 22:6. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. The New Testament version of that is right here in front of you. Luke chapter 6 and verse 40. A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone, after he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. It's simple. It makes sense. Whoever's your teacher is your discipler. You cannot separate education and discipleship. Whoever is educating our children is discipling our children, which means whoever educates the majority of children is discipling the majority of children. And if the pupil is not above his teacher, and if everyone will ultimately be like his teacher, you see the power of education.
When it comes to the school system itself, the school system is just failing at this point. The school system in America is just basically failing everyone. And unfortunately, when it comes to young black males, they're the ones who's going to be left further and further behind. The only thing the school is worried about is teaching is CRT, their own hidden agenda, gender issues that has nothing to do with educating a child. They need to focus more on what they need to do to get children educated so they can actually go out in this world and be productive, educated so they can go out and compete with the world. Other countries, the stuff that the parents are fighting with at the school boards now, other countries are not doing that. They're educating their kids on reading, writing, arithmetic. They're educating their kids on things that's going to get them out and be able to truly compete with other countries in this world. America is not doing that. America has a hidden agenda on how they want their kids to stay subservient. They do not want thinkers, they want workers. And the more BS they can cram down a child's throat, the more they're going to have workers and they're not going to have thinkers. That's why sometimes these people who are standing up saying, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm standing up for. If you go up to them and ask them certain questions, they cannot give you an answer because they're more or less following what everyone else is doing. Oh, this is what's hype right now, so I'm going to go in this direction. oh, this is what someone told me. My best friend told me they was doing this. And I asked no question. I said, well, okay, I'm going to follow you. That is the education system in this country. And like I said, unfortunately, our young black men are going to get left further and further behind when it comes to education. I mentioned before about my father. He worked for, well, we know it now as Bell South. But back in the days, there was like only one phone company in the South, and it was called Southern Bell at the time. And I mentioned that my father was a janitor there. You know, this was like during the time where black people could only hold certain jobs within the company, and my father was a janitor. But he had a co-worker which was also a black man. This particular man could not read, he could not write. If he had to sign his name, he would just put an X because he couldn't even spell his name. But guess what job he had? He was an electrician. Anything that happened within the building itself that was electrical, he fixed it. Can't read. He did not go to school, but somehow he finagled his way into being an electrician at this company, this big company. It wasn't a mom and pop company. This was Bell South, well, Southern Bell at the time. He was their electrician in one of their main buildings in Orlando. How did he learn electrician? By watching someone else do it. He followed the person around. They talked to him, explained what was going on. He got it. Building never caught on fire, never blew up, nothing. He did the job like he was supposed to do, based on just watching someone else do it. Because I made a video, you know, it's like I said, it's 8 ways to learn. But in school, they're focusing on one way. Well, at this point, they're not focusing on any way. It's just, oh, you need to learn this agenda. You need to learn about gender. You need to, you know, they're not even teaching at this point. But they need to focus more on teaching. They look at a young black male and say, oh, he has ADD. Oh, he's slow. Oh, he can't learn. You're not teaching him in the style that he needs to learn in. And that needs to be a focus. That's why I said if I had the ability, I would open a school where all the teachers are male teachers and for the young black men, for black males. Because I really feel that they would respond better in a situation like that, because they will feel more secure and more safe in asking questions that they might not understand without feeling like, oh, someone's going to laugh at me, oh, someone's going to think this is a dumb question or a stupid question. So they need to be in an environment where they're looking at people that their peers, you know, they have a strong male figure that they can look at and who can also teach them.
Currently, the curriculum in schools is controlled by the government and teachers' unions. Interestingly enough, it's the curriculum that's doing the discipling, because that's the other thing we hear. Oh, we have Christian teachers. We have Christian administrators. We hear that a great deal. That's what a lot of folks used to say, for example, in Port Neches, Texas. And they pride themselves on their schools there in Port Neches, Texas. You know, Port Arthur, Texas is real close to Port Neches. Port Arthur, that's where those people live. You know, large numbers of blacks and Hispanics, poor people, that's where their schools are. Port Neches is different. Port Neches is pearly white. It's rather wealthy compared to Port Arthur. Their schools are different. It's true, which is why one of their principals of a Port Neches elementary school was caught in a sting in the middle of a park soliciting boys for sex. He also happened to be a deacon at a local Port Neches Baptist church. So I'm sure the parents there went around saying, our schools are different. Our principal is not only a Christian, he's a deacon. Good for them. The teacher in Florida, in the Tampa area, who got a slap on the wrist for having sex with teenage boys. What did she claim? Christianity. So the people who were sending their kids into her classroom and having them molested by her could rest assured because their schools were different. And the teacher, a church-going Christian. So much for guarantees. Our schools are incapable of training our children in the very things that God commands.
And when it comes to being a Christian, God left us the Bible. And with the Bible, any situation you're facing in the world today, I know it's an old book, but it's really not a book, it's the living word of God. And so everything that we're going through today is in the Bible. How to deal with, how to navigate is in the Bible. So by reading the Bible, it helps you know what you should do and how to get through the world. And unfortunately, when it comes to education, or fortunately when it comes to the church is not doing their job. I said earlier, it's like when you look at the church now, it's almost like, what is the church doing? You see preachers more focused on what they're wearing. You see preachers more focusing on, I need a jet, I need a private plane. You see them focus on everything, but what they're supposed to be doing is leading God's people in the direction they should go. You never really hear them talk about what they can do to better the community. It's like the churches, sometimes the church look more like the world than the world do, unfortunately. And it's just that at what point are we really going to just wake up and say, okay, things are falling apart. This is what we need to do to get everything back on track. We have to compete with the world on so many levels. These other countries, even though they're doing a lot of things that are unethical, they're doing a lot of things that I do not agree with. They're trying to take over the world, and we're here in America being petty over things that really doesn't matter if everyone worked together and moved in the right direction. We have to think about the kids, because like I said, at some point we're getting older. At some point we're going to have to hand the baton over to them. One, how are we leaving the world? And two, are they going to be capable enough to manage the world? Are they going to be capable enough to make decisions, not follow the leader, but make decisions that's going to affect, because like I said, you might live to 150. These are the people that's going to be making decisions for you. Right now you're making decisions for them. They're going to be making decisions for you in the future. If you look at some of these kids, do you really want them making decisions for you? So we need to start now educating them. And like I said, especially our young black males.
Now, before we look at all these, let me admit something to you. The word school doesn't exist in any one of these. And there's a reason. The Bible knows nothing of such things. But let's look at what it says about the training of the mind. Deuteronomy 6 and 7. These words which I'm commanding you today shall be on your hearts. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. That would be all the time. I had an administrator in a school system in Amarillo, Texas, challenge me on this issue, because she's committed to public schools, committed to government education as a Christian. She's committed to it. We got to have it, and our kids have got to be there. And I mentioned this passage of scripture, to which she responded, I always thought that meant non-school hours. Ma'am, where, pray tell, was Moses sending his kids to school? Listen to Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates when? Day and night. He will be like the tree firmly planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. And in whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but they are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Romans 12:2, listen to this. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. Look at 2 Corinthians 10:5. We are destroying speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. We are taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Is math a thought? Is science a thought? Is history a thought? Colossians 2:8, see to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, according to the tradition of men, according to the empty principles of the world, rather than according to Christ. Listen to this. 1 Timothy 6:20, O Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to you, avoiding worldly and empty chatter and the opposing arguments of what is falsely called knowledge, which some have professed and thus gone astray from the faith. Can we obey these principles without applying them to the way we educate our children? How can we do that, folks? How can we look at these principles about the training of the mind and not apply them to the way that we educate our children? I'm going to skip some of these and talk about early education. You'll get some more of this as we look through this. But listen to this. Government education was established around 1870. I'm surprised at how many people don't know this. Modeled after the Prussian format, rooted in secular humanism. It was opposed by American Christians for decades. First 50 years, the church fought tooth and nail against compulsory education and against government education. Fought it tooth and nail. They knew better. As late as 1900, still 2/3 of all high school children were educated at home or the church. As late as 1900, still 2/3. Listen to this from Alexis de Tocqueville. As late as the 1830s, it was noted in America that education was everywhere in the hands of the Protestant clergy. Education is not mentioned in the United States Constitution, but guess what is? The 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. The federal government has no constitutional jurisdiction over education.
We should get back to having a nuclear family normal. Building up the family together with a mother and father in the household, building a neighborhood, building a community. You know, all this black on black crime needs to stop. It shouldn't be a thing. One black man should not look at another black man and see him as his enemy. He should see him as his ally. He should see that, okay, we might be from different neighborhoods, we might be from different states, but we can come together and build together. We could come together and uplift our family, our communities. What can we do to have a positive influence on the next generation? That's how black men should look at each other, and that's how they should come together. What can we do to build each other up? What can we do to stop all this fighting, to stop all this killing? We're not each other's enemy. We're each other's ally. And that should become the norm instead of the abnorm.
A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone after he is fully trained will be like his teacher. I'm a homeschool dad. We homeschool our children. Trey's with me. Trey travels everywhere with me. Trey's 14 years old. I am his teacher. I am his discipler. When our sons reach the age of 13, they go through a rite of passage. They enter into manhood. And when they enter into manhood, their mother closes up the books and hands them to me. She is no longer their teacher. I am. There are things that I, as a man, am commanded to teach my children, my sons, that my wife cannot. And so Trey travels everywhere with me. He is my personal assistant. I am his mentor. I am his teacher in all of his subjects and in the art of manhood. what it means to be a man, to live like a man, to conduct oneself as a man, the good, the bad, and yes, the ugly. And so, people are always asking the same questions when they find out that we're a homeschool family. Always asking the exact same questions. And these questions are rooted in the fact that they've been discipled by the system. There are 3 questions that we always get, okay? Number 1, every homeschool family knows it is the question of questions. It is, if we have any homeschool families in here, I'm not even going to say it. What's the question? What about socialization? Exactly, we get that, you know. And that's the easy one, all right? What about socialization? The other question is that legal? And the other question is, where do you get your curriculum? Who oversees your curriculum? Those are the 3 questions. Why does everyone ask the exact same 3 questions? Because everyone's been discipled by the same teacher. Is that legal? Where does that question come from? That question comes from sheep who have forgotten that they are free men. We ask that question because we believe that children are wards of the state. We ask that question because we've been discipled by the system that says it owns us. And the first question everybody asks is, how can you educate your own children? Why? Why? Because the system wants you to be a slave. I'm a free man. My children are mine, not wards of the state. The government has no jurisdiction over my children.
And the reason I'm standing here saying all this is because my heart, I understand how difficult it can be to not have any guidance, to not have someone that you can go to. No matter where you look at, you're getting either misinformation, misled, or there's nothing. And so I like I said, men should be the head of the household, but if they're not taught to be men, how can we expect them to behave like men? So we need to teach them how to be men. Men need to teach them, rally around young black men and teach them how to be men, teach them how to move forward in life. And that's basically all I want to say.
Responsibility as a father is to raise, train, hone, aim, and launch the arrows that God has given me. And there are those who seem to think that I should take them when they're undeveloped twigs and launch them into a system that will hone them and sharpen them and aim them back at me. Newsflash. I'm raising an army of intercontinental ballistic missiles. And one day the silo is going to open over my home. And when it does, there will be missiles launched to impact this world who have been trained, armed, and honed in my home and not by Caesar.